Ladies and gentlemen, it's your friend Ryan Curry. We're back with another video. We continue our series of the top 100 deadliest maritime disasters in World War One. We had previously looked at the HMS Louvain as our last ship we looked at. We now continue with the episode. This is episode 2 of this series. We will begin our countdown at number 80, the sinking of the Italian ship Prezio. Okay, let me just load the picture here. The Prezio, that is the ship. On 4th May, the troop transport sailing from Messina to Cephalonia was torpedoed and sunk by the Austro-Hungarian submarine U-4, killing 227 men. She sank in 1918, belonging to Italy. 227 people lost in the disaster. She was a military ship. Number 79, the sinking of the Imperatrice Maria. Let me guess. The Okay, there it is. So, what was the Imperatrice Maria was the lead ship of her class of 3 dreadnoughts built for the Imperial Russian Navy during World War One. She served with the Black Sea Fleet during the war and covered older pre-dreadnought battleships as they bombarded Ottoman facilities in 1915. The ship engaged the Ottoman light cruiser Midili, formerly the German MS Breslau, several times without inflicting anything more serious than splinter damage. Unfortunately, her service would end on the morning of 20th October 1916 when a fire was discovered in a forward powder magazine while at anchor in Sevastopol, but it exploded before any efforts could be made to fight the fire. Sailors, led by engineer-mechanic midshipman Ignatiev, however, managed to flood the forward shell magazine before the explosion at the cost of their own lives. Their action probably prevented a catastrophic detonation, and all of the other magazines were flooded as a precaution. About 40 minutes after the first explosion, a second occurred in the vicinity of the torpedo compartment that destroyed the watertight integrity of the rest of the forward bulkheads. The ship began to sink by the bow and then listed to starboard. She capsized a few minutes later, taking 228 sailors with her. The subsequent investigation determined that the explosion was probably the result of the spontaneous combustion of the nitrocellulose-based propellant as it decomposed. Following a complex salvage operation, the ship was refloated on 18th May 1918 and moved into Sevastopol Northern Dry Dock on 31st May, still upside down. The chaos of the Russian Revolution and Civil War prevented further repair work, although her 130mm guns were removed. By 1923, the wooden blocks supporting her in place were rotting. She was floated out and grounded in shallow water in 1923. She was approved for scrapping in June 1925 and officially stricken on 21st November 1925, although the work did not begin until 1926 when she was refloated and moved back into the dry dock. Her gun turrets, which had fallen out of the ship when she capsized, were later salvaged. 2 of them were used as the 30th Coast Defense Battery, defending the city during the siege of Sevastopol in World War II. But we will not go to World War II, we remain in World War I. Next, we move to the next ship. This is the 79th ship on our list, the Imperatrica Maria, sinking in 1916, belonging to Russia. She was number of deaths during her sinking 228. She was a navy ship. Next, we move on to number 78, the sinking of the SMS Karlsruhe. Just bring it up. Okay, the SMS Karlsruhe was a light cruiser of the Karlsruhe class built by the German Imperial Navy. She had one sister ship, the SMS Rostock. The ships were very familiar to the previous Magdeburg class cruiser. The ship was laid down in 1911, launched in November 1912, and completed by January 1914, armed with 12 10.5 centimeter SKL 45 guns. Karlsruhe had a top speed of 28.5 knots or 52.8 kilometers per hour or 32.8 miles per hour, which allowed her to escape from British cruisers during her career. After her commissioning, the ship was assigned to overseas duties in the Caribbean. She arrived in the area in July 1914, days before the outbreak of World War I. Once the war began, she armed the passenger liner SS Crown Prince Wilhelm, but while the ships were transferring equipment, British ships located them and pursued Karlsruhe. Her superior speed allowed her to escape, after which she operated off the northeast coast of Brazil. Here she captured or sank 16 ships. While en route to attack the shipping planes into Barbados, a spontaneous internal explosion destroyed the ship and killed majority of the crew. This is how the event occurred in deep detail. Let me just bring you. So while on the way, Karlsruhe stopped in Wilhelmstad in Curacao to take on more coal and oil. After reaching the northeast coast of Brazil, she sank her first British steamship on 18th August. The ship went to Maraca Island, south of the mouth of the Amazon River, to replenish her coal stock from a German steamship. As Karlsruhe steamed to Barbados on the night of 4th November, a spontaneous internal explosion destroyed the ship at approximately 6:30 p.m. The hull was split in half, the bow section quickly sank and took with her crawler and most of the crew. The stern remained afloat long enough for 146 of the ship's crew to escape onto the attending coalers, the Hamburg Sud liner SS Rio Negro, and the captured British steamer SS Indrani. At 6:57, the stern also sank. Commander Stunt, the senior surviving officer, took charge and placed all of his men aboard Rio Negro. He scuttled Indrani and steamed north for Iceland. The ship used the cover of a major storm to slip through the British blockade of the North Sea and put in at Ålesund, Norway. Rio Negro then returned to Germany on 6th December. The Admiral's stab, unaware of the loss of the Karlsruhe, coincidentally radioed the ship to order her to return to Germany. Germany kept the loss of the ship a secret, and the British continued searching for her until they learned of her fate in 1915. As a result, 11 British cruisers were tied up searching for the cruiser for almost 6 months after she had been destroyed. Clara's widow christened the cruiser Karlsruhe, the third to bear the name, at her launching in August 1927. That is the 78th deadliest disaster. Number 77, the sinking of the Brenges. Let me just bring it up. Let me just, it's not this ship. I'm afraid there isn't any picture of the Barbarossa-Ottaman so let me just display what I have there. So the Brenges. So on 13th May 1918, the Austro-Hungarian troop transport was torpedoed and sunk by the Italian motor torpedo boat MAS 99 in Durazzo Harbor. 234 of the 1,192 troops and crew aboard were lost, and 958 were rescued. She is the 77th deadliest disaster on our list. Next, we move on to the sinking of the Canadian ship HMHS Liandovery Castle. Let me just bring the pictures up. HMHS Liandovery Castle. Okay, that's the Liandovery Castle. So, let's get a bit of a background before she sank. So, built in Glasgow as the RMS Liandovery Castle for the Union Castle Line, was one of the 5 Canadian hospital ships that served in the First World War. On a voyage from Halifax, Nova Scotia to Liverpool, England, the ship was torpedoed off Southern Ireland on 27th June 1918. The sinking was the deadliest Canadian naval disaster of the war. 234 doctors, nurses, members of the Canadian Army, Medical Corps, soldiers, and seamen died in the sinking and subsequent machine gunning of lifeboats. Only 24 people, the occupants of a single life raft, survived. The incident became infamous internationally and was considered, after the Armenian genocide, as one of the world's worst atrocities. After the war, the case of the Liandovery Castle was one of the 6 alleged German war crimes prosecuted at the Leipzig trials. Here, one of the sergeants who was on board one of the lifeboats said this: "Our boat was quickly loaded and lowered to the surface of the water. Then the crew of the 8 men and myself faced the difficulty of getting free from the ropes holding us to the shipside. I broke 2 axes trying to cut ourselves away, but was unsuccessful. With the forward notion and choppy seas, the boat all the time was pounding against the ship's side. To save the boat, we tried to keep ourselves away by using the oars, and soon every one of the latter was broken. Finally, the ropes became loose at the top and we commenced to drift away. We were carried towards the stern of the ship when suddenly the poop deck seemed to break away and sink. The suction drew us quickly into the vacuum. The boat tipped over sideways and every occupant went under. I estimate we were together in the boat about 8 minutes. In that whole time, I did not hear a complaint or murmur from one of the sisters. There was not a cry for help or any outward evidence of fear. In the entire time, I overheard only one remark when the matron, nursing nurse, M.M. Fraser, turned to me as we drifted helplessly toward the stern of the ship and asked, "Sergeant, do you think there is any hope for us?" I replied, "No," seeing myself, our whole helplessness without oars, and the sinking condition of the stern of the ship. A few seconds later, we were drawn into the whirlpool of the submerged afterdeck, and the last I saw of the nursing sisters was as they were thrown over the side of the boat. All were wearing life belts, and of the 14, 2 were in their night dress, the others in uniform. It was doubtful if any of them came to the surface again, although I myself sank and came up 3 times, finally clinging to a piece of wreckage and being eventually picked up by the captain's boat. That was a remark made by Sergeant Arthur Knight, who was on board Lifeboat 5 with the nurses. Here is another remark made by Captain Kenneth Cummings, who recalled the horror of coming across some very horrific thing, the Nazis' floating corpse. He remarked this: "We were in the Bristol Channel quite well out to sea, and suddenly we began going through corpses. The Germans had sunk a British hospital ship, the Liandovery Castle, and we were sailing through floating bodies. We were not allowed to stop. We just had to go straight through. I was quite horrified, and my reaction was to vomit over the edge. It was something we could never have imagined, particularly the nurses. Seeing these bodies of women and nurses floating in the ocean, having been there some time, huge aprons and skirts in billows, which looked almost like sails, because they dried in the hot sun. After the war, 3 officers from U-86 were charged with committing a war crime on the high seas. This later, the German population took exception to these trials, especially because the Allies were not similarly bringing their own soldiers to justice. That is number 7P. What was that? The number was... that was number 70. That was number 76. Excuse me. Okay, we move to number 75. The sinking of a ship whose name is driven from the 1500s. The name of it is named after a famous artist. Many Italians would grasp the name of this artist, very famous, known for being the one who drew the Mona Lisa. This is the sinking of the Leonardo da Vinci, and we bring up the pictures. Let me just... Excuse me. Ship. I'm going to just add something here. Battleship. That shit. Yes, here we have. So, the Leonardo da Vinci was the last of the 3 Conte di Cavo class dreadnoughts built for the Regia Marina in the early 1910s, completed just before the beginning of the World War I. The ship saw no action and was sunk by a magazine explosion in 1916 with the loss of 248 officers and enlisted men. The Italians blamed Austro-Hungarian saboteurs for a loss, but it may have been accidental. Leonardo da Vinci was refloated in 1919, and plans were made to repair her. Budgetary constraints did not permit this, and the hulk was sold for scrap in 1923. That is the sinking of the Leonardo da Vinci. Let me just give you a bit of more picture. She capsized in Taranto. So, she capsized in Taranto Harbor, not Toronto, Taranto, in 11 meters of water after an internal explosion on the night of 20 to 3rd August 1916 while loading ammunition. Casualties included 21 officers and 227 enlisted men. A subsequent investigation blamed Austro-Hungarian saboteurs, but unstable propellant may well have been responsible. Well, that's it for the Leonardo da Vinci. So, number 70 is... Number 70 Number 74, the sinking of the SMS Bremen. Let me just give you a picture. Let me just give you. The SS Bremen was the lead ship. Let me bring it up for you people. I have to leave you at on the Leonardo da Vinci. The SMS Bremen. Okay. The SMS Bremen was the lead ship of the 7-vessel Bremen class of light cruisers, but built for the German Imperial Navy in the early 1900s. She and her sister ships were ordered under the 1898 naval law that required new cruisers to be built to replace obsolete vessels in the fleet. The design for the Bremen class was derived from the preceding Gazelle class, utilizing a larger hull that allowed for additional boilers that increased speed. Bremen was armed with a main battery of 10.5 guns and had a top speed of 22 knots or 241 kilometers per hour or 225 miles per hour. Upon commissioning in 1904, she was deployed to the East American Cruiser Division that patrolled the Atlantic coast of North and South America. She operated in the region for nearly 10 years, and in that time, she visited numerous foreign ports across both continents to protect German interests abroad. These visits included 2 major stops in the United States for the Jamestown Exposition in 1907 and the Hudson Florent celebration in 1909, and the 100th anniversary of the independence of Chile and Argentina, both in 1910. She also intervened in periods of domestic unrest in various Central and South American countries, assisted merchant ships that suffered accidents, and helped to evacuate more than 1,000 civilians during the Mexican Revolution in the late 1913 and early 1914. Recalled to Germany in 1914, Bremen was decommissioned in March and overhauled, which included repairing 4 of her 10.5 centimeter guns and with a pair of 15 centimeter guns. This work was still being done when World War I broke out that year, and upon completion of her modernization in May 1915, Bremen was assigned to the naval force in the Baltic Sea. She took part in several patrols in the eastern and northern Baltic to search for Russian warships, but she saw no action. She took part in the Battle of the Gulf of Riga in August, where she engaged a Russian gunboat and bombarded Russian positions ashore. While Bremen and a pair of torpedo boats were on patrol in December 1915, one of the torpedo boats entered a Russian minefield, striking a mine. When Bremen moved to assist the stricken vessel's crew, she too struck a pair of mines and sank, taking most of her crew. The sinking is now, let me just give you a bit, although I have given a bit of it. So, let me just give you there. So the V191 struck a mine at 5:10 p.m. and Bremen moved to begin rescue operations, while V186 attempted to take the damaged torpedo boat under tow. V191 had been fatally damaged, however, and she soon sank. After lowering her boats to pick up survivors, the Bremen struck a pair of mines as well. The majority of Bremen's crew died in the sinking, with 250 men killed. Only 53 were pulled aboard V186. That is the 74th deadliest disaster. Number 73, the sinking of the its name. This name is a bit long. I've never seen a name so long. Okay, just have the SMS. This is going to be a very, very long name to write. Okay, let me just place it there. Okay, so the SMS Karl Friedrich Wilhelm was one of the first ocean-going battleships of the German Imperial Navy. The ship was named Princess Electa or Karl Friedrich Wilhelm, 17th century Duke of Prussia and Margrave of Brandenburg. She was the fourth pre-dreadnought of Brandenburg class, along with her sister ship Brandenburg, Weisberg, and Worth. She was laid down in 1890 in the Imperial Dockyard in Wilhelmshaven, launched in 1891, and completed in 1893. The Brandenburg class battleships carried 6 large caliber guns in 3 twin turrets, as opposed. Let me just as much as you can see against. If there's a picture, yes. I don't know if you are able, you can see clearly the pictures here. Guns. Yes, I think you should be. Okay, she was loaded with large 6 caliber guns in 3 twin turrets, as opposed to 4 guns in 2 turrets, as you can see the 4 guns there. So she served as the flagship of the Imperial Fleet from her commissioning in 1894 until 1900. She saw limited active duty during her service career with the German fleet due to the relative peaceful nature of the late 19th and early 20th centuries. As a result, her career focused on training exercises and goodwill visits to foreign ports. These training maneuvers were nevertheless very important to developing German naval tactical doctrine in the 2 decades before World War I, especially under the direction of Alfred von Tirpitz. Okay. She, and along with her 3 sisters, saw only one major overseas deployment to China in 1900 to 1901 during the Boxer Uprising. The ship underwent a major modification in 1904 to 1905. In 1910, the ship was sold to the Ottoman Empire and renamed Barbarossa-Ottaman. She saw heavy service during the Balkan Wars, primarily providing artillery support to Ottoman ground forces in Thrace. She also took part in 2 naval engagements in the Greek Navy, the Battle of Ely in December 1912 and the Battle of Lemnos the following month. Both battles were defeats for the Ottoman Navy. In a state of severe disrepair, the old battleship was partly disarmed after the Ottoman Empire joined the Central Powers early in World War I. On August 1915, the ship was torpedoed and sunk off Dandalice by the British submarine HMS E-11 with heavy loss of life. I know you know the name, Dandalice, famous for the HMHS Britannic. I'm afraid we won't be looking at it because it's not among the top 100 deadly disasters. That is because the number of deaths was so low, it couldn't enter into this list. That's very fortunate for her. We now move to number 70. I'm losing my numbers. Number 72, the sinking of the SMS Grace and the RMS Alcantara. This will be a very, very, very hard one to decide. To do it. Okay. Now, this one will use a very, very new way. The SMS. Let's start with the grave first. Let's look into the grave. Okay, where do we have a picture? Yes, this picture should do well. The SMS grave. The Grave. She was a cargo steamship that was converted into a merchant raider for the Imperial German Navy. Built as Guben, she was a 4,962 gross registered ton steel-hulled ship owned by the German-Australian line Hamburg. She was converted for naval service at Kaiserliche Werft Kiel in 1915 and commissioned as Grave on 23rd January 1916. She sailed from Elba port of Cuxhaven on 27th February 1916 under the command of Frégate Captain Rudolf Tietz, born 13th September 1874. The Royal Navy had learnt of Grave sailing and was awaiting in the North Sea. Grave was disguised as the Norwegian Rena, born for Tonsberg, Norway, when intercepted by the 15,620 gross registered ton armed merchant cruiser Alcantara on the morning of 29th February 1916. And Alcantara closed 2,000 yards and slowed to lower her boarding canter when Grave hoisted the German battle ensign, increased in speed and opened fire. Alcantara returned fire with a 6-inch guns and 2 3-pounders. Range was never more than 3,000 yards. Alcantara was hit by a torpedo amidship on her port side. So Alcantara was hit by a torpedo amidship on her port side, and one of Alcantara's shells exploded the ready ammunitions of Grave's afterguard. Both ships lost speed. Grifter's crew abandoned ship 40 minutes after opening fire. Alcantara sank first. The C-class light cruiser Commerce and MS-class destroyer then arrived to sink the stationary Grave and rescue 120 German survivors. An estimated 187 Germans perished along with 72 Britons. Just to show you, there's a picture of them engaging fire. I think if we can pull them, and HMS Alcantara. Here. As you can see here, we have HMS Alcantara on the left and SMS Grave on the right, dueling at close range during the action of 29th February 1916. That is our 73rd deadliest disaster. Wait, let me just confirm. Sorry, it's the 72nd deadliest disaster on our list. Number 71, we move on to the HMS Pathfinder. The HMS Pathfinder. See if we can get. So, the HMS Pathfinder. Let's get this picture uploaded. They are very nice and clear. So the HMS Pathfinder was the lead ship of a class of 2 British scout cruisers and was the first ship ever to be sunk by a self-propelled torpedo fired by submarine USS Housatonic. She was built by Colonel Lyde Baconhead, launched on 16 July 1904 and commissioned on 8 July 1905. She was originally to have been named HMS Fastnet, but was renamed prior to construction. During the beginning of World War I, the Pathfinder was sunk on 5th September 1914 by a German U-boat, the SMU-21. One survivor of the sinking, Acting Stab Lieutenant Edward Oliver Snonick, described the sinking such as: the ship gave a heavy lurch forward and took an angle of about 40 degrees down by the bow. Water came swirling up to the searchlight platform. The captain said, "Jump, you devils, jump!" The captain and the secretary remained with the ship until the very end, but somehow both survived. Also among the survivors was Staff Sergeant Thomas Smirch, who lived at Buke House in Dromo-Codown. Recounting the experience in a letter to his mother, he said, "The explosion had blown a great hole in the side of the ship. I was at the time in the wardroom, but ran up on deck immediately, and it was then evident by the way the bow was down in the water that she would sink rapidly," he said. "I was then thrown forward by the slope of the deck and got jammed beneath a gun, which I expect is the causing of my bruising. And while in this position, I was carried down some way by the sinking ship, but fortunately, after some time, I became released, and after what seemed like interminable ages, I came to the surface. And after swimming a short time, I was able to get an oar and some other floating material, with the help of which I was able to keep on the surface. Fishing boats from the nearby fishing port of Eyemouth were the first on scene and encountered a field of debris, fuel oil, clothing, and body parts. Additionally, the British destroyers HMS Stag and Empress had spotted the smoke and headed for the pile of smoke, only to find that few survivors they were had been rescued. There is significant confusion regarding the numbers of survivors. On 6 September, the Times declared that 58 men had been rescued, but that 4 had died of injuries. The explosion was seen by British writer Aldous Huxley while staying at the Northfield House, St. Abbs, who recorded the following in a letter to his father, sent on 14th September 1914. "I dare say Julian told you that we actually saw the Pathfinder explosion, a great white cloud with its foot in sea. The St. Stubbs lifeboat came in with the most appealing accounts on the scene. There was not a piece of wood, they said, big enough to float a man, and over acres the sea was covered with fragments, human and otherwise. They brought back a sailor's cap with half a man's head inside. The explosion must have been frightful. It is thought to be a German submarine that did it, or possibly a torpedo fired from one of the refitted German trawlers, which cruise all round painted with British port letters and flying the British flag." There is a picture of the explosion. I think if I can... Yes, here it is. The Pathfinder, the explosion there, as you can see, a funnels collapsing. That's the HMS Pathfinder. Number 71. Number 70. We move to number 79. The SMS Leipzig. That is number 70. Let me just bring it up. You see, this photos really bring. Oh, here is a pic. Oh no. Here is the piece of wreckage of the ship. Now, this is just the recent photos of the wreckage. Looks to be, these are some of the pieces of wreckage. That's some of the pieces of wreckage. Let's move on to number 70, the SMS. That's the SS Leipzig. She was the sixth of 7 Bremen-class cruisers of the Imperial German Navy, named after the city of Leipzig. She was begun by A.G. Weiser in Bremen in 1904, launched in March 1905, and commissioned in April 1906. She was armed with a main battery of 10.5 centimeter guns and two 45 centimeter torpedo tubes. She was capable of a top speed of 22.5 knots or 41.7 miles per hour or 25.9 miles per hour. She spent her career on overseas stations at the outbreak of World War I in August 1914. She was cruising off the coast of Mexico. After rejoining with the East Asia Squadron, she proceeded to South American waters where she participated in the Battle of Coronil, where the German squadron overpowered and sank a pair of British armed cruisers. A month later, she again saw action at the Battle of the Falk Islands, which saw the destruction of the East Asia Squadron. Leipzig was chased down and sunk by the cruisers HMS Glasgow and HMS Kent. The majority of her crew was killed in battle, with only 18 survivors. That is the sinking of the SMS Leipzig at number. That is the sinking of the SS Leipzig, number 70. Number 69, we won't be able to see it, so you can just watch there. You can draw your pictures to the Leipzig as I drew the fine. Number 69, the sinking of the Tripoli. The Italian passenger steamship was torpedoed and sank on 17th March off Sardinia by a U-boat UB-49. She sank slowly, but 268 of the 457 people aboard were killed. Other sources report 288 killed and 189 survivors, or more than 300 victims. That is, let's see if I'm able. I'll try and get the Tripoli ship. I'm guessing that's a no. Let me just try and add 1915. I'm afraid that's the only picture that see the Tripoli in the distance. So let's move to number 6. That is number 69. Let's see number 68. The sinking of the Takashiho. Let's just add sheep so that it can. Aha, here we go, Takashiho. So the Takashiho, she was the second and last Naniwa's class protected cruiser built for the Imperial Japanese Navy, or IJN, in the 1880s. As Japan lacked the industrial capacity to construct such vessels, the ship was designed and built in the United Kingdom. She participated in the First Sino-Japanese War on 1894 and 1895, playing a major role in the Battle of the Yalu River and lessened roles in the battles of Port Arthur, Waihaoi, the Pescadores Campaign, and the invasion of Taiwan. Takashiho played a minor role in the Russo-Japanese War of 1904 to 1905, where she participated in the Battle of Chemulpo Bay, briefly helped to blockade Port Arthur at the beginning of the war, helped to sink a Russian armored cruiser during the Battle of Ulsan, and participated in the climatic defeat of Imperial Russian Navy in the Battle of Tsushima. The ship was relegated to auxiliary roles as a depot ship and a training ship after the war, and was converted into a mine layer in 1911. The Takashiho was torpedoed and sunk by a German torpedo boat in 1914 during the siege of Chigatow in World War I, with the loss of most of her crew. So that's the Takashiho. Want, let me just bring in picture as well. You can see a design is not like Japanese ships like we've known, like the US, like the Amaro. which you can look at your own time on Wikipedia. Okay, that says, and it even has the design of, it looks like a design of a British ship, not a Japanese ship. You can see guns there. Even the funnel design doesn't look more like a Japanese ship would. So that's it for that. Takashio at 68. 67, I'm sorry, we also won't be able to see the pictures. Okay, this 67, the sinking of the Mercury. As we do, let me just see if I can get a picture even. Okay, we just I'm afraid this will not be possible. So the Takashio. So then the sinking of the Mercury on 20th June, the ship on a voyage from Ochakov to Odessa struck a mine laid by the SMUC-115 and sank in the Black Sea 13 nautical miles off Odessa with the loss of 272 lives. That is number 67, Mercury. Number 66, the sinking of the SS Arcadian. That's the SS Arcadian. The SS Arcadian was a barrow-in Forest-built passenger liner constructed in 1899 by Vickers, Sons and Maxim Limited for the Pacific Steam Navigation Company as the SS Ortona. In World War I, she served with the Royal Navy and was sunk by a U-boat in 1917. You see, so her career was not mostly. She was hit by a single torpedo by the UC-74 and sank within minutes with the loss of 279 lives on 15th April 1917. Some of the dead were cooks and stokers who were working below decks. The escorting destroyers had 2 torpedoes launched at her while she was attempting to rescue men from the water. So that's the Arcadian ship with a very short with a career not that interesting. Just to let you know, the troop ship was sunk in the Aegean Sea off Milos. Milos. Let's see. Next ship, number 65, the sinking of the Hirano Maru ship. Yes, I think this is among the only pictures we have. So on 4th October, the Japanese liner had left Liverpool for Yokohama with 340 crew and passengers and general cargo on board. She was torpedoed in the Irish Sea during a strong hail by SMUB-91, killing 292 people on board. Next, we move on to number 64, the sinking of the HMS. The sinking of the HMS Vicnor. Let me just bring it. HMS Vicknor. Okay, that's it, just before the sinking. So there's HMS Vicknor, or the RMS Atrato, was a UK steamship that was built in 1888 as a Royal Mail ship and ocean liner for the Royal Mail Steam Packet Company. In 1912, she was sold and became the cruise ship the Viking. Late in 1914, she was requisitioned and converted into the armed merchant cruiser HMS Vicknor. Sank in 1915 with all hands, a total of 295 Royal Navy officers and men. It is thought that she struck a German naval mine, possibly one of those laid by the German auxiliary cruiser Berlin. Her wreck was found in 2006, and in 2011, a scuba diver placed a white ensign on it in memory of a compliment. That's the Vicknor. Yeah, at number 60. I kind of lost. That is the Vicknor at number 60. 63. 63. 64, sorry, 64. It's number 64. Yeah, some pictures of the wreck here next to the propellers. As you can see, divers diving to the wreck. That's for the HMS Vicknor at number 64. Number 63, the sinking of the Danton. Okay. It's the Danton. So the Danton was a semi-dreadnought battleship of the French Navy and the lead ship of her class. She was a technological leap in battleship development for the French Navy, as she was the first ship in the fleet with turbine engines. However, like a battleship of her type, she was completed after the Royal Navy battleship HMS Dreadnought, and as such she was outclassed before she was even commissioned. During her career, Danton was sent to Great Britain to honor the coronation of George V, and later served in World War I as an escort for supply ships and troop transport, guarding them from elements of the German Navy. While en route to aid a blockade, she was torpedoed and sunk on 19th March 1917 by a German U-boat, leaving 296 men dead. The location of the wreck remained a mystery until an underwater survey team inadvertently discovered the battleship in December 2007. In February 2009, the wreck was confirmed to be the Danton. The ship is in remarkably good shape for her age. Danton rests upright on the seafloor, and most of her original equipment is reported to be intact. We can get a picture of the wreck. If we are able, we can ship wreck. Okay, where does that? Okay, that is the picture of the Danton. She looks pretty good for her age, as we looked in the previous photo. She had 5 funnels, but she still looks good here compared with this. She may have lost 4 funnels, but her guns look still intact. So that's the Danton at number 63. Number 62. Number 62, we won't be seeing on this ship. It won't be of the Brindis. See. Ship. Italy. Italy. 1916. I'm afraid the Brindis. I'm afraid this is the only picture we have of her. The rest pictures are not. I think this is the only picture, as we can see her being laid down. I'm afraid this is the only picture. So on 6th January, the Italian steamship was sunk off Schengen, Albania by a mine laid by a German submarine UC-14. 300 Italian crew and 540 Serbian and Montenegrin troops who had been enlisted among Serbian and Montenegrin emigres in the US and Canada were killed. Only 145 crew and passengers survived. The ship left Halifax Harbour for Europe in December 1915. Our final ship for this episode, the SMS Viribus Unitis. Okay. The SMS was Unitis. That's a picture of her. I think we have it on the screen. She was an Austro-Hungarian dreadnought battleship, the first of the Tegethoff class Viribus units, meaning with United Forces, was the personal motto of Emperor Franz Joseph I. Viribus Unitis was ordered by the Austro-Hungarian Navy in 1908 and was laid down in Stabilimento Tecnico Tirretnito shipyard in Trieste on 24th July 1910. Viribus was launched from the shipyard on 24th June 1911 and was formally commissioned into the Austro-Hungarian Navy on 5th December 1912. She spent her early career performing training missions and making trips to foreign ports. In June 1914, she carried Archduke Franz Ferdinand on a trip to Bosnia with his wife Sophie. During his visit to Sarajevo, he was assassinated by Gravirov Prince in the event that caused the beginning of World War I. During World War I, Viribus Unitis took part in the flight of the German battle cruiser SMS Goinbing and light cruiser Breslau. In May 1915, she also took part in the bombardment of the Italian port city of Ancona. Viribus was sunk while at anchor by limpet mines emplaced by Italian sailors on 1st November 1918. So that's, I think we have a picture of as she listed. Where is he? There is a picture. List sinking. Let me just start sinking. Yeah, here we have a picture of her listing heavily. So guys, I think that's it for our episode there. Let me just bring you back to my camera here. Yeah guys, we have looked at 40 of these disasters. 60 more are left before we conclude this list. I'd like to thank my members for the support they are doing. Also you, my subscribers, my viewers, for subscribing. If you've not yet, please hit the subscribe button and also like the video. Before we leave, let's look at our video postcard. This video postcard comes from the country of South Africa. South Africa is one of the largest countries in Africa, although being defeated by Algeria, DRC, and even Sudan. Although she is known of how she endured during her independence, she has gradually come back in a maritime industry. Please watch the corporate video that has been presented by the South African Maritime Institute. Please watch and enjoy this short video postcard.
Earth, the tiny blue marble we call home, navigating its vast oceans for millennia, alongside a multitude of creatures living beneath its surface, man's desire to explore, discover, and trade gave birth to the modern society we know today. South Africa, with its 3,000 kilometers of coastline, is the meeting place of the Atlantic, Indian, and Southern Oceans. Its territorial waters 3 times larger than its landmass. With 8 commercial ports and 12 fishing harbors, it is no wonder that the oceans support 30% of the country's coastal population. But there is potential for the maritime economy to play a much larger role. Estimates show the country's waters have the potential to support a maritime industry that contributes up to 177 billion rand to the South African economy annually, and as much as 1 million direct jobs. By sustainably utilizing these living waters, we can add at least 4% a year to the gross domestic product and boost job creation. Helping to plot and steer the voyage of discovery to unlock the maritime economy's potential is the South African International Maritime Institute, SAHIMI. SAHIMI coordinates the skills development, education, training, and research needed to stimulate the growth of the blue economy in South Africa and the rest of Africa. The Institute is supported by the South African Maritime Safety Authority, the Department of Higher Education, and other government departments, the maritime industry and academic institutions, and the National Skills Fund. Based in Nelson Mandela Bay, the only city in South Africa with 2 commercial ports, SAHIMI is uniquely positioned to stimulate and coordinate the research, education, and skills development needed to advance South Africa as a global leader in the sustainable use of maritime resources. The Institute fills a much-needed linking role between industry, education, and training institutions and government. On one hand, it helps to identify industry needs and opportunities, and on the other, it helps to meet those needs by facilitating the development of education and training programs that drive global competitiveness. SAHIMI is a direct outcome of the South African government's Operation Phakisa program, which is growing the country's maritime economy. Plans to grow the blue economy depend on the availability of skilled people to implement them, along with a generation of knowledge and technological innovation that looks to the future. SAHIMI works closely with post-school education institutions to coordinate blue economy-related research, teaching, and training, helping to steer the skills development needed to realize the Operation Pakisa objectives. In line with Operation Pakisa, there are 6 critical focus areas. They are marine transport and manufacturing, offshore oil and gas exploration, aquaculture, marine protection services and ocean governance, small harbors development, and coastal and marine tourism. Through its programs, SAHIMI is contributing to all sectors of the blue economy, including shipbuilding, manufacturing, aquaculture, marine engineering, environmental protection, and the development of specialized skills in the fields of maritime law, commerce, and trade. SAHIMI is responsible for managing South Africa's flagship training initiative, the National Cadet Program, which answers the global call for qualified professional mariners. It offers practical training and training berths, enabling students to obtain internationally recognized STCW qualifications and become globally sought-after seafarers. More than a dozen shipping lines are working in partnership with the National Cadet Program to offer training berths to South African seafaring cadets. We know relatively little about the oceans. Some 95% of the Big Blue remains unseen by human eyes, even though it covers 70% of the planet's surface. We know more about the heavens than the oceans, making them the last frontier for scientific exploration and study. It is a whole new world of opportunity. The South African International Maritime Institute. Join us in exploring the blue ocean's economy.
That was a very nice video we looked at. Just to recap on what we have looked so far. We looked at the SS. Before we began the video, at the start of this video, we looked at the Piercio, an Italian ship, an Italian military ship that sank in 1918 with the loss of 227 lives. We moved to the Imperatriza Maria, which was a navy ship that sank. That was a Russian navy ship that sank in 1916 with the loss of 228 people. We also looked at the SMS Karlsruhe, a German naval battleship. That was a German navy ship that was lost in that sank in 1918 with the loss of 233 lives. We looked at the Brengens that sank on 30th May of 1918, belonging to the Austria-Hungary, which was a military troop transport ship that sank with the loss of 234 people. We later looked at the HMS Liandovery Castle, a Canadian Navy hospital ship that sank in 1918. 234 people were lost. Next, we moved to the Leonardo da Vinci, an Italian Navy battleship that sank in 1916, loss of 248 people. The SMS Bremen, a German Navy light cruiser that sank in 1915, 250 lost. The Heredeni Barbarossa, a navy that belonged to the Ottoman Empire, Ottoman Empire Navy battleship that sank in 1915, 253 lost. The SMS Grave and the RMS Alcantara moved in later. The SMS Grave belonged to the Germans, while the RMS Alcantara belonged to the UK. Both sank. 259 people were lost. Both were Navy ships. Next, we moved to the HMS Pathfinder, a British Navy cruiser that sank in 1914, 259 lost. The SMS Leipzig, a German Navy light cruiser, sank in 1914, 268 lost. The Tripoli, an Italian passenger steamship which was a civilian ship, sinking in 1918, 268 people to 268 or 288 were lost in the disaster. We moved to the Takashiho, a Japanese Navy cruiser that sank in 1914, 271 lost. The Arcadia, a British military troop ship that sank in 1917, 279 were lost. The Hirano Maru, a Japanese civilian liner that sank with 292 people lost in the disaster in 1918. The HMS Vikon, a British Navy auxiliary cruiser that sank in 1915. 294 people were lost in the disaster. Also, we moved to the Danton, a French Navy battleship that sank in 1917. 296 people were lost. The Brindisi, an Italian military steamship that sank in 1916, 300 were lost. And finally, at our 61st, the SMS Viribus Unitis, the Austria-Hungarian Navy battleship that sank in 1918, 300 to 400 people were lost in the disaster. So we've gone through these 40 disasters. We've reached the 300 mark. Still, we are a long way to our deadliest disaster. With 60 more left, we need to keep searching. Still, just keep watching. We are getting there to our final disaster. To give you a quick trailer, let me just show you what will be in the next episode. In next episode, we will kick off the countdown. With the sinking of a Japanese ship. We'll also look at the sinking of an American Navy ship that sparked very, very, very questions about the Bermuda Triangle. Stay tuned for that, it will be coming up. We'll also look at many other ships, a mine layer sinking in an explosion. We'll also look at other ship, a French cruiser that was torpedoed and sunk in the Mediterranean. Stay tuned for that. We'll also look at a ship that sank while doing its job somewhere in Is it Madagascar? Yes, that was sailing to Madagascar, one of the largest islands in the world. Stay tuned for that. Anyways, I better get going. Hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to leave a like and a comment, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Anyways, that's it for me and the rest of the crew of the Ryan KRB YouTube members channel. We'll be having a meeting soon. Stay tuned. We'll be having a meeting. I'll call you soon. Anyways, thanks for your time, and I hope you all enjoy your day, your morning, afternoon, or evening, or even night, or even if you are going to today on Friday. Please keep safe, stay safe, and stay cool. It's getting really hot on the African continent. I heard there's a cyclone near Madagascar. So if you're in Madagascar watching this, we send you. Hope you recover your belongings in case you are lost. Anyways, by the time you watch this, maybe the storm will have passed. Sorry for that again. My camera is acting a bit. So, anyways, I better get going. I've got some duties to do at home here. I've got a lot of cleaning of the utensils before I go to bed. Right now it is 10:23 p.m. where I am in Kenya. So if you are one of a Kenyan fan here, I send you my shoutouts. If you are from everywhere, North America, South America, Asia, Europe, Oceania, or even still here on the African continent, with me, my fellow members, we send you our hellos to you. Anyway, thanks for your time. See you on the next one. And don't forget to check out the videos that I have published. If you didn't watch the series beginning, please watch it, number 100 to 81. Then continue. Then you will have captured it all. Anyways, bye. And also my friend will be saying a shout out to you. My friend Kat will come by. Anyways, bye.